Mel, Mel, Mel. Everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I want to touch on the other miners. I do get a lot of requests. I just want to go through them as much as I can. The one that everybody asks a lot about is RIOT. Do I think RIOT is going to be bullish? I do. What is the RIOT institutional buying like? It's been going up like crazy over the last 5 years. You do have whales coming in and out. You do have people trading in and out of it. But a lot of the institutions actually just end up continuing to accumulate over the last few years, as shown by the data available on fintel.io. Especially over the last couple of months, there seems to be a pretty significant increase in institutional buying. And you can also see that not just here on fintel.io, but even over here for the Blackhead L3 Banker Fund Float Oscillator, you can also see there's an increase in the inflow over here the last couple of months over here as well. So everything is kind of lining up pretty well. There's a significant decrease in outflow and an increasing inflow over here. I mean, granted, it just hasn't accelerated as much as CleanSpark. It just hasn't accelerated as much as Mara. But there's still some pretty significant inflow over here. And you also have a lot of institutions that's been buying into RIOT for over years. So I do think that RIOT is going to have a pretty decent run. I just don't know in terms of how far and how fast it's going to end up doing that. But there are reasons to believe that RIOT is going to be okay, even though it's been incredibly disappointing over the last year or so. What we'd like to tell you is, if you want to look at the trend, it's a little bit tougher to tell what the trend is over here because it just hasn't really been forming clear higher highs or higher lows or anything like that. It's just kind of been oscillating around here for quite some time. So it is really, really tough in terms of just to eyeball it. So we're going to put some of the other indicators here to kind of help us in terms of trying to determine the trend. First thing is going to be the Bollinger Band. Bollinger Band is going to show you the 20-month moving average. Right now, so far, it's been really looping around, kind of like what it's doing for Cypher, CIFR. RIOT really has also been using the 20-month moving average, just kind of been using as support and trying to push price up higher. Although price just kind of been consolidating for so long that you actually end up having a little bit of a Bollinger Band contraction rather than expansion, like you see on Mara, Bitfarm, or Cypher, or even CleanSpark. You don't really have that for RIOT. It's just been consolidating for so long. It's coiling and it's trying to find the next trend. Right now you do have a little bit of an early month or mid-month breakdown of the 20-month moving average, but one candle doesn't make it all, and also another 13 days before this candle closes, so it might just end up being a little bit of a wick or a back test. I think it's probably going to favor for it to just be a wick. The reason why that is because the 20 moving average is pointing up. And if you have an up pointing support, generally it serves as a pretty decent support. So I think this is probably going to end up holding. And also, it spends a significant amount of time up here on the upper part of Bollinger Band. So trend is your friend. Usually when it ends up doing that, you're going to end up developing a bull trend. Sure enough, the 20-month moving average is pointing up to tell you that that's probably what's happening. And I do think you're going to end up bouncing here, and most likely you're going to end up getting back above on the top part of this volume shelf over here and maybe re-challenge the other volume shelf right around. Price has just been oscillating between these two big volume shelves down here for closer to about a whole year now, unfortunately. And a lot of energy has been building up over here. Trend so far is telling us it's getting bullish, although you don't really have the bullishness that's really starting to play out quite just yet because the Bollinger Band is actually squeezing a little bit, but a lot of energy is building up over here at this range. So if you look at the Ichimoku Cloud, there is a bullish development that happened, but it might get notified, relatively soon. The bullish development that happened is that the Tenkan has crossed over the Kijun. This is a bullish Tenkan Kijun crossover here, but you also have a little bit of a potential bearish crossover here. So this just basically means that it might just oscillate here, just like how it's been doing over the last year, just kind of oscillating around these indicators over here. Not bullish, not bearish, but overall, it still looked like we have bottom. It still looked like we're forming a lot of consolidation over here. It still looked like it's trying to determine energy. Or we're going to show you some of the weekly moving averages here to also confirm a bull trend, but I do think this is a bull trend. The couple other things here too is the Tenkan, normally in a bull trend, in a bear trend it should point down, and it does, right? In a bull trend it should point up. Sometimes you're just going to have having a little bit of a fake out where Tenkan kind of point down a little bit before its bullish continuation. But so far it is a little bit like kind of rolling over here a little bit in the short term. We'll see what happens if it end up having a little bit of bearish cross here. Maybe it end up oscillating around here for a little bit longer before we're able to really truly determine the trend to push price up to above the cloud over here. But so far it's just kind of like going sideways. So it's a little bit hard to discern when it comes to RIOT. If you look at a little bit more closer, same thing. If you look at a weekly, it's just been oscillating here for close to a year. There's not really a clear trend over here. A lot of bullish momentum over here. It has been kind of murkier based on this whole sideways action here for about a whole year. If you look at the weekly moving averages, it's going to basically tell you that yes, there's still a bull trend that is still intact, because 20 is still over 50, it is still over 100. And it looks like it just back tested 100, or at least got relatively close to back test 100. It definitely did that a couple months ago. It looks like it's trying to do that again, really trying to build a solid foundation before going up again. 20 and 50s are starting to curl down because it's been going sideways for so long. But so far, there's still a full bull trend for RIOT. 20 is still above 50, is still above 100. These are weekly simple moving averages. You still have a pretty nice bull trend over here that has just developed just a few months ago. So we'll see. It doesn't take a whole lot of price action to kind of push price up higher though. You know why? Because if you look at the volume is actually quite favorable for RIOT. Volume has been increasing on uptrend, decreasing on downtrend, increasing on uptrend, decreasing on downtrend. So I think we might be getting a little bit closer to, getting a little bit more exhausted here. If you ask me what the whole year has been doing, I'm going to tell you that this is reaccumulation. The reason why I say that is because buying volume is up, selling volume is down, buying volume is up, selling volume is down, buying volume is up, selling volume is down. So this is a pretty classic kind of accumulation or reaccumulation type volume pattern. And you also look at what the institutions are doing. I mean, there's no doubt to me that this is reaccumulation. The question is more how high it's going to go. It does have a weekly bull trend, although the weekly bull trend is getting a little bit weakened because just of how much consolidation that RIOT has been having, unfortunately. Now, if you look at different levels, I already showed you, I think it's getting close to getting done correcting, because right now the 100-week simple moving average is around 9.52. Price is already getting pretty close to that. And if you pull up the other indicators over here, if you just do a volume shelf indicator, trying to figure out whether or not we're at a good place. I mean, right now I think we're kind of stuck behind between this big volume shelf down here. The bottom of this volume shelf down here is also around 9.5, right? So 9.5 seems to a pretty decent support level. And if you look at a weekly Ichimoku cloud, I mean, right now it's just kind of oscillating around the Ichimoku cloud, and right now it's below the cloud, it's below the Tenkin, it's below the Kijun. Interestingly, Tenkin is actually still above the Kijun, so you actually have a relative bull trend here. It's very interesting. It's actually got a little bit of a bull trend here, although it's starting to kind of point down a little bit here. There are really not much support level here that you're going to be able to find on Ichimoku cloud, but I do think that you're getting close to a lot of these really critical support down here at 9.5, both in terms of 100-week moving average, as well as in terms of the volume shelf over here. And also, you're already testing a 20-month moving average on the monthly, which is also going to be a pretty important level. Right now, that average is at 10.21, so don't be surprised that 10.21 is going to be a magnet to kind of bring price back above that level to close the month. I'm not really too concerned about RIOT in the long term, although if you ask me how far it's going to go down, it's hard to say, but I think it's a pretty critical support here for RIOT. So that's RIOT, right? If you look at the other stock here, this is one that I used to own and I exited, which is HUT 8. The thing about HUT 8 is if you look at the Fintel.io data, there's been a decrease in whales that are coming, like they're really exiting in terms of institutions. This is a little bit traveling, so I end up exiting the stock based on technicals and also based on seeing something like this. I decided to kind of put my money elsewhere. Although this can still do very well. Like there's no guarantee just because institutions are decreasing that this is not going to do well. But this is a little bit concerning. The technicals did get a little bit more concerning to me, so I ended up exiting HUT 8 for now. It's not because it's not going to bounce. It looks like it's just going to be a major laggard. It could potentially be a well performer on the later part of the cycle, but it just looks like it's a little bit of like a laggard, if you will. So far, the 20-month moving average is flat. which means that it's starting to potentially go up, but there's no guarantee you're going to end up having these kind of impulsive candles up, right? None of this is going to be a guarantee, and right now, even though you had a pretty bullish candle last month, you're also having a pretty bearish candle. If anything, it's getting a little bit kind of bearish and golfing kind of look to it. I do think that is probably already bottomed down over here around $3 to $4. But right now the trend is just kind of going sideways. It's just kind of doing a whole lot of nothing, and it's kind of getting magnet at this big giant volume shelf over here. So the trend is flat. That's the best I can say. It looks like it could potentially turn from negative to positive, but right now the trend is flat. I like that it's flattening, but I don't like it enough to stay. So that's just one thing to kind of take into consideration over here. The other thing to take into consideration, if you look at Ichimoku Cloud, right now Tenkan is still pointing down, so this is technically still a little bit of a bear trend on the monthly. I would like to ideally see it challenging Tenkan a little bit more, get above it, backtest Tenkan and use it as support to go up higher. This is also one of the reasons why I exited. Now, with that said, last cycle, once it breaks through, it can break through and it just can keep on going, right? Just because Tenkan is resistance doesn't necessarily mean that price won't go up higher and a bull trend won't start, but it is a little bit less favorable, compared to the other miners that I'm showing you. There's also no bullish cross here at all. Kinjin is still pretty far away from the Tenkan. Ideally, if it was going to cross, and it also gives me a little bit more of an indication that, hey, the bear trend is over. But again, over here, when it starts going up, it also didn't really cross until like midway of this big giant bull trend, right? So you never know. Different stocks have different personalities. Maybe HUT is just going to be one of those like delayed performer. Maybe it's going to end up catching up in a big way later on. Who knows? We'll see. But there are a few things here that are not so favorable, and the trend is still a little bit questionable at this point. If you also look at a weekly, I'm also going to put up the the weekly trend over here. The weekly trend is also a little bit murky as well, because 20-week moving average, simple moving average is pointing down, serve as resistance, slap the price back down, right? So far 50 is above 100, that's good, but 20 is below all of them. So there's no weekly bull trend for HUT, and because of this, I find this to be less favorable. And also another thing to look at too is the Ichimoku Cloud. Right now, Ichimoku Cloud Tenkan is below Kijin, which means that you don't really have a bullish trend even on the weekly for the Ichimoku Cloud. Price is below the cloud. It doesn't even look like it's going to want to challenge it anytime soon. And so far, it just got rejected here by the weekly Tenkan here. So it is pointing up here, which is promising, but there's not really any confirmation that it's going to form a local bottom over here and just keep going up anytime soon, just because all these indicators that I'm showing you here, HUT continues to be weak. And that's unfortunate. Now, if you're also trying to find the buy volume actually has been a little bit decreasing and on its way up. So there's a little bit of a reduced buying pressure here. Over here, initially I was in this because I was seeing a lot of pretty decent technicals here with increasing buying volumes here and decreasing selling volumes over here, and and increasing buying volumes over here. So initially, I was thinking it's going to be more favorable, but ultimately maybe the fundamentals has changed because there's big giant volume selling candles over here, and the buying volume just hasn't really picked up. So this is going to be a laggard until proven otherwise, unfortunately. And also the lack of institutional support is also a little bit concerning. Going to talk about a couple other smaller cap Bitcoin miners here. One is IREN, IREN ticker symbol. How's that going in terms of what the institutions are doing? Institutions like it. Over the last year or so, the institutional ownership has doubled. And you're really talking about IREN, even technical wise, is actually turning pretty decent. I'm going to pull up the monthly here. You're not going to get the L3 banker fund flow from Black Hat just because price hasn't really been around for long enough. But if you look over here at the Ichimoku Cloud, even if I take out the Ichimoku Cloud here for just a second, if you just look at what the monthly is doing, it's been forming some pretty decent bull trend here, form a little bit of higher high, higher low over here, high over here, higher low over here. Unfortunately, this bounce didn't really quite form a higher high here. It's just price just ended up getting magneted over here at this volume shelf, but that's okay. I like what it's trying to do. If you put out the Ichimoku Cloud, the Tenkan continues to be riding up, And right now, Tenkan continues to serve as resistance, but it's been challenging Tenkan for quite some time. And so far this month, it's still early. It's been challenging Tenkan, left a little bit of a wick above. But I like the fact that it's trying to break above. Another thing also like is that buying volume is going way up. Selling volume tends to be going a little bit down, right? So all of this are a little bit more, favorable in terms of what I'm seeing over here. I like it in terms of what it's trying to do, although again, there's no confirmation for a clear bull trend, but it's looking like it's going to be because Tenkan is rising up. I do like to see the Tenkan cross above the Kijun. That hasn't happened yet, but I like the fact that it's trying. And so therefore, this is going to be a little bit riskier as a result. You look at a Bollinger Band though, Bollinger Band is telling you a little bit of a different story on the monthly. The 20-month moving average is a little bit flattish, but it's still pointing up. And you also are going to still have a little bit of like a Bollinger Band squeeze around here because the consolidation has been happening. But because price has spent the last 5-6 months above on the upper part of the Bollinger Band, I think this is also going to be end up developing a bull trend rather than not, right? Another thing I also find it very, very favorable here. If you look at these kind of moving averages kind of like that, why don't we just pull it on the weekly chart and see what the moving averages are doing? And that's going to give you a very, very clear picture in terms of what's happening, right? You have a full bull trend. 20 is above 50, is above 100, 100 flattening down here. All of this are looking pretty decent in terms of the bull trend that is developing on the weekly here. And it looks like we just kind of had a little bit of a back test of the 50. The 50 resonance around 4.82 we passed so far. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go down further and back test some of the lower levels down here, but so far it's back testing that pretty decent, and the bull trend is still intact, right? Now, in addition, looking at the moving averages, I also want to pull up the Ichimoku cloud. What Ichimoku cloud is showing is a pretty clear picture of breaking above, oscillating around the Ichimoku cloud, breaking above with the Ichimoku cloud again, and then back testing it. So far, it looks like it's passing the Ichimoku cloud. Very interesting. It's also 4.82 is also the top of the Ichimoku cloud over here. So there's a confluence of support over here, and this confluence of support is finding support over here today. Another thing to also find to be more favorable for this would include the buying volume is increasing, selling volume is decreasing, selling volume is decreasing, buying volume is increasing. So far, buying volume is increasing, and right now this is still Thursday, so it's, candle's not done yet. But I think it's going to be safe to assume that this selling volume over here is probably not going to end week to be higher than this buy volume candle over here. So I think that you're going to end up having more and more of this selling volume kind of getting a little bit more exhausted over time. And so far, I like the way that the volume is looking. We'll see what happens though by the end of the week and also over the next few weeks, whether or not it's going to break above this Tenkan Kijun over here. We'll see what happens, right? But so far it's looking pretty promising. Again, a lot of bullish energies are building up over here for closer to a whole year. And so far the volume and also institutional buying is supportive of this moving up, which is going to be the next big move when it happens. Now, finally, I want to talk about one that is also pretty popular here on X. A lot of people have asked about this as well. TeraWulf, ticker symbol WULF. Institutions buying. Over the last couple of months, big buying. There has been a pretty decent inflow over in terms of whale fund coming in. That is also confirmed by the whale fund indicators over here too. You really started having significant decrease in outflow and significant increase in inflow by the whales started around last month, around March of 2024, and that's also been showing up here, a very, very same thing here that's confirmed with Vintel.io. A lot of institutions have been buying in, has been accumulating. If you also look at what the volumes are doing, it's also telling you a very similar picture here too, where every single uptrend over here is met with pretty significant buying volume, and any downtrend is really met with decreasing bearish volume, if you will, right? So this whole range right here most likely is an accumulation range, and also think that this right down here is just basically people are trying to sell out of it and you're trying to exhaust the sellers right over here. But when you have big volume buying, the volume is huge. This really does look more like an accumulation range over here. it looks like what it's been doing. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud here on the monthly, it's really been trying to flip this Tenkan from resistance to support. It looks like it really was trying to flip it as support for quite some time. Unfortunately, it turned into resistance for quite some time over here too. But right now, it looks like we're actually just kind of turning back into support over here. Right now, the Tenkan is at 2.03, and the price is about to Tenkan. Although Tenkan is pointing down a little bit, so it's not really like a confirmed bull trend or anything like that. But it does look like we're trying to challenge the Tenkan, and right now, Tenkan could potentially serve as a support moving forward, especially if it end up flattening out here over the next couple of months, potentially using it as a launching pad to go up a little higher. In terms of the trend, not clear trend over here quite just yet, right? Tenkan did kind of slop down a little bit over here. No cross over here in terms of bullish Tenkan Kijun cross, still a little bit further away. But if you look at, instead of looking at Ichimoku cloud, you look at the Bollinger Band, you can clearly see that you're starting to have a little bit of expansion of the Bollinger Band, and the 20-month moving average is really nicely curling upwards. So this could be a beginning of a very nice bull trend that could be coming up pretty soon. We'll see what happens with that. But the monthly certainly seem like the Bollinger Band seem like it's looking pretty good. Now you look at it weekly, it's right off the bat. If you just look at the weekly moving averages, putting up over here, nice bull trend. This bull trend just started transpiring over really just like a couple of weeks ago. 20 is over 50, is over 100, 100 is flattening, 50 and 20 are pointing up, 20 and 50 are getting pretty nice separation over here, and price hasn't really even back tested 20 yet. It could even back test to 50, but it already back tested 100 and passed, and it's developing a pretty decent bull trend over here on the weekly. If you look at what it's trying to do on the Ichimoku cloud here on the weekly, it looks like it's just oscillating between the cloud up and down, broke above it, trying to back test in the top of the cloud, failed to hold. Now it's back testing the bottom of the cloud, but basically it's just been oscillating. Right now you have the weekly taken over the Kijun, back testing the bottom of the cloud, maybe even back test the Kijun down here. I don't care. You know why I don't care? Because look at this. This is an accumulation volume pattern. High buy volume, reducing sell volume, high buy volume, reducing sell volume, high buy volume, a little bit of decrease in sell volume over here. So this fits what the institutions are doing, what the wealth fund indicators are doing, or are showing you what the big money are doing. They're buying, they're reaccumulating. This is an accumulating type pattern. So I'm encouraged by this. Now, out of these four that I talked about, I don't have a position in RIOT. I used to have a position. How I got out of it? I have a small position in IREN, and I have a small position in WULF. But these are not nearly as big as the positions that I have on the major miners, CleanSpark, Mara, and Bitfarms. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. It's been over 20 minutes. Bye.